Okay, part 2, I'm talking about the wrist morphology of Ardipithecus, and specifically a paper on the forelimb morphology of Ardipithecus by Lovejoy et al. From the recent special edition of Science, the journal Science. I'll put a link to all the articles in that are free. And I was discussing a paper by Richmond and Strait, where they identify in a multivariate analysis in modern humans and in the living African great apes and in extinct humans, strong evidence for parallel development of these knuckle-walking adaptations. Essentially, their conclusion is that we, modern humans, have strong knuckle-walking adaptations in our wrists. We're not knuckle walkers, nor can we. Most of us can't knuckle walk. But the point is that we have absolutely what they consider to be demonstrable leftover characteristics of a knuckle walking ancestor. So if Ardipithecus lacks these, and truly does lack these, then Ardipithecus, well, I don't know what that says about Ardipithecus. But now, this isn't the most important thing. Now, again, as I mentioned, this is the one thing about it. Now, I'm not saying that this Richmond and Strait paper, this could be 100% full of crap. They could have such a huge mistake in it that somebody like Owen Lovejoy would have immediately said, "Hey, that's wrong. I can prove that." Okay, when he wrote this paper, all right, or when the authors wrote the other paper, that could have been the case, but they don't cite it in this paper at all. The Richmond and Strait paper, one of the very few papers written in the last decade on hominid wrist morphology and knuckle walking, isn't included in a paper on hominid wrist morphology and knuckle walking. But that's not the most important one. This is one. Now, I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. This is from a book. This is a chapter 2 from a book. I can't read it here. Sorry. Chapter 2, Knuckle Walking and the Origin of Human Bipedalism. This is from a 2003 seminar. Okay? 2003, a seminar that the papers from that seminar were published into a book. The book was called From Biped to Strider, From Biped to Strider, The Emergence of Modern Human Walking, Running, and Resource Transport. Okay. Chapter 2 is written by David R. Begun. This entire chapter is 22 pages long. You know what this chapter is about? It's about the adaptations of knuckle walking in apes, including extinct apes and extinct humans and modern humans. Okay. It is a complete literature review of everything that it was known up to that time on knuckle walking, the biomechanics of knuckle walking, and the evolution of knuckle walking structures. He analyzes the Strait paper, the Richmond and Strait paper, and get this, nose. Well, he's got a table in there. He has a preliminary look at the ramidus wrist bones and concludes that ramidus also had knuckle walking characteristics in this paper. Now that, again, may not be true, but you know what? This paper by Begun isn't cited in this paper at all. That's really, really weird. Maybe there's a good reason for it. This paper, again, the Begun paper, goes through and basically bit by bit demolishes the idea that human ancestors weren't knuckle walkers, using a number, not using genetics, using the wrist morphologies, using a number of different analyses, looking at other species unrelated to primates that are also knuckle walkers. Giant anteaters are knuckle walkers, I guess. And have some similar adaptations in their wrists, and looking at what it takes to make a knuckle walker out of a non-knuckle walker, how specialized that has to be, and what are the odds of it evolving in these two related lineages independent of each other, and they constantly compare humans. This is where this one here. He's got a whole chart on there, which includes here it is. It's a table. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm bothering to hold. I'm holding it up to prove that it exists, I suppose. This is a table of characteristics comparing orangutans, which are not knuckle walkers, which are apes that don't knuckle walk, with chimpanzees, gorillas, modern humans, Australopithecines, and Ardipithecus. Okay? Down this entire list, the pongans, the orangutan, clusters separately from the African apes on those features specifically regarding knuckle walking. Okay? And again, I'm not saying that Lovejoy and them are wrong. I'm only saying that they didn't, I don't think, adequately address their critics by just simply not mentioning their critics or people that would have. I mean, that I hope I'm making sense with this. If I'm trying to propose a new and somewhat radical idea, especially one that has such big implications for hominin evolution, I think I would include papers that provide good evidence that disagree with me, and then show why those papers are incorrect. To not mention them is bothersome. They are simply not mentioned. I went through this paper back and forward. I went through the lit cited. I looked through every single thing I could on this. But the Lovejoy paper does acknowledge that there are some strong similarities in the wrist morphology of chimpanzees and modern humans that are lacking in ramidus. Okay? How do they explain that away? How do they explain the fact that our wrist looks more like a chimp wrist than Ardipithecus, and yet Ardipithecus, we're derived from Ardipithecus? Basically, they're claiming parallel evolution, but not for knuckle walking. Those similarities, the authors say, in chimpanzees evolved and gorillas evolved for knuckle walking. The same structures used for knuckle walking evolved independently after Ardipithecus so that we could have a good grasping hand. Okay? So all of these a lot of the specialized characters that would make people believe that humans used to be a knuckle walker, or that our ancestors were knuckle walkers, according to Lovejoy, independently evolved again in humans to give us, a better grasping hand, better at holding on to tree branches or tools or whatever it is that we would, that we're held on to in the Australopithecines. There's something there that's a little hard to swallow. If Ardi's wrist was never found, if the skeleton were found and the wrist weren't there, nobody would question. There would be a sweet, nice parsimony that an African ape evolved knuckle walking sometime in the, maybe, I don't know, Pliocene or Miocene, I guess, late Miocene, and that ancestor then gave rise to gorillas, and then the chimp-human clade, and then the human clade, and then humans lost most of those adaptations because we no longer knuckle walked. There would be no. I mean, it fits the fossil evidence, it fits the genetic evidence, it fits everything. The bad joke monkey wrench in that system is now we have Ardipithecus that shows no adaptations for knuckle walking. So I have to ask why. And I've been thinking about this, thinking, okay, first of all, with this wrist of Ardipithecus, we have a good sample of one. We have both wrists, but we don't have lots of individuals. I know that a lot of the characteristics that for knuckle walking in chimps, for example, if you look at the range of these adaptations, actually are ontological, meaning that as the lifetime the chimp spends on its fingers changes the shape of the bones over time. So maybe Ardi was young and hadn't had those adaptations set in. Maybe Ardipithecus is something else. Maybe Ardipithecus is something different. Maybe Ardipithecus is a chimera. Maybe the wrists or part of the skeleton aren't from the same individual. I'm pretty sure that that wouldn't have snuck by. I mean, these guys are. I'm not knocking these guys are pretty brilliant guys. But something's wrong. My thought is that when we find a better sample size of Ardipithecus, more individuals, I think we're going to find that either this evidence is based on poorly preserved specimen, and that Ardipithecus was indeed a knuckle walker or derived from a knuckle walking ancestor. I have little doubt on that looking at the other evidence, but that's just me. But anyway, I wanted to sort of to present this. I'm sorry if it was really, really, really boring. I found it fascinating. I love to talk about these wrist bones. I was going to bring out my skeletons and everything. I have skeletons and human wrist skeletons and stuff like that to show, but I decided not to. So, all right, you guys, take care. Thanks.